Captain Pike's greatest love in Star Trek is still waiting for him after Strange New Worlds ends. Captain Christopher Pike's Anson Mount greatest love story happens after the events of Star Trek: Strange New Worlds. As a prequel to Star Trek, the original series, Strange New Worlds, depicts Captain Pike's time in command of the USS Enterprise before Captain James T. Kirk William Shatner takes over. While many of Pike's adventures were uncharted territory before Strange New Worlds, his unfortunate fate has been sealed since the TOS two-part episode, The Menagerie. That story reveals that Pike will suffer a horrific injury in 2266 that will leave him paralyzed, disfigured, and bound to a wheelchair. The Menagerie incorporates flashbacks from Star Trek's original rejected pilot, The Cage, depicting Captain Pike's Jeffrey Hunter previous mission to Talos IV, where he and his crew encounter the powerful Talosians. Pike also meets Vina Susan Oliver, a young woman whose ship crash landed on Talos 4 years before, and the two form a connection. The Talosians use their telepathic abilities to try to convince Pike to stay, but he ultimately escapes, leaving Vina behind. Captain Pike will ultimately end up with Vina after Strange New Worlds, not Batel. In Star Trek, the original series' The Menagerie, which takes place in 2267, Spock Leonard Nimoy hijacks the Starship Enterprise and risks his Starfleet career to take Pike to Talos IV. Having seen how powerful the telepathy of the Talosians is, Spock knows that they can give Pike a normal life, and perhaps even a happily ever after. Spock successfully gets Pike to Talos IV, where the Talosians create the illusion that he is whole again, allowing him to live out the rest of his life with Vina. While Star Trek has not revealed whether Pike actually remains on Talos IV for the rest of his life, this particular future does not bode well for him and Captain Marie Batel Melanie Scrofano. Star Trek: Strange New Worlds Season 2's finale ended in a cliffhanger with Captain Batel's life hanging in the balance after she is infected with Gorn eggs. Batel may not survive, although this would be a particularly tragic turn for Strange New Worlds and Captain Pike. Still, even if Batel does survive, Pike is ultimately destined to end up with Vina. Why Captain Pike hasn't told Batel about his tragic future? Captain Pike learned about his tragic future in Star Trek: Discovery Season 2, but he has only shared this information with a select few. Pike confided in his number 1 LT Commander Una Chin, Riley Rebecca Romine, and LT Spock Ethan Peck, but he has not shared his future with Captain Batel. While Star Trek: Strange New Worlds has not fully explained why Pike has yet to tell Batel, the show has provided some hints. In the Strange New Worlds musical episode, Pike and Batel have an argument via song about Pike's tendency to avoid difficult conversations. Captain Pike clearly cares deeply about Batel, and he does not want to burden her with the knowledge of his dark future. He may fear that Batel would treat him differently if she knew his future, and he likely doesn't want her to feel sorry for him. Pike does not know that he will eventually end up on Talos IV with Vina, and he may still be hoping for a future with Batel even after his injury. Pike has likely been waiting for the right time to tell Batel the truth, but her injury at the end of Star Trek: Strange New World season may second force the issue. Christopher Pike, the tragic hero of Star Trek: Strange New Worlds, has always been a man of impossible choices. With gravity in his voice and a future he cannot escape, Pike's story is as much about love and duty as it is about exploration. And while Strange New Worlds has given us plenty of compelling relationships, flirtations with Captain Batel, deep bonds with his crew, and the familial camaraderie of the Enterprise, Pike's greatest love is one the series has only touched upon: the stars themselves. But as his journey edges closer to the known tragic endpoint scene in the original series and the Menagerie, what becomes clear is this: Pike's truest, most profound love isn't a person at all. It's the dream of a future he knows he'll never live to see. His greatest love in Star Trek is hope, and it's still waiting for him, far beyond the stars, even after Strange New Worlds ends. The burden of knowing. Anson Mount's portrayal of Pike adds emotional texture to a character who once had only fleeting screen time. Thanks to Strange New Worlds, Pike is now firmly embedded in the pantheon of iconic captains, not because of his triumphs, but because of his tragedy. He knows his fate, a devastating accident that will leave him broken and immobile, kept alive only by a beeping chair and the mercy of others. He's seen the future. He's felt its weight. And yet, he chooses to stay in command. This act of willful courage is not just a testament to Pike's nobility, it's the very heartbeat of his character. He does not run from death. He runs toward duty, and in doing so, he keeps the dream of Starfleet alive. But underneath that stoic resolve, there's something more poignant. Pike still hopes. A star-crossed captain, romantic love has brushed Pike's life, most notably through Captain Battelle. Their relationship is tender, mature, and real, a rare thing in a universe where warp speed often outpaces emotional depth. But their love, as sincere as it may be, always feels like it exists on borrowed time. Pike holds back. He retreats. Not out of fear, but out of guilt and inevitability. He doesn't want to tether someone to a future that will be consumed by his pain. In this way, Pike becomes the most human of all Starfleet captains. Where Kirk charged ahead with swagger and Picard kept his distance out of stoic professionalism, Pike walks a middle line. He wants love, he feels deeply, but he also knows that any path forward is clouded by the shadow of his destiny. That's what makes his ultimate love so heartbreaking. He's in love with a future that will never be his. The future that waits. Strange New Worlds is a show about possibilities. It's about what could be. And no one embodies that more than Pike. He is the captain of the what if. What if he didn't meet that fate? What if he could serve longer? What if he could see the Federation he's helping to build flourish? The answers are locked behind time itself, and yet Pike gives everything he has to make sure that others will see it. In a sense, Pike's love isn't unrequited, it's simply deferred. The future he sacrifices himself for, the one where Starfleet thrives, where peace stretches across galaxies, where captains like Kirk, Sisko, Janeway, and Burnham carry the torch, that future waits for Pike. Not to return to it, but to be remembered as the one who helped make it possible. More than a legacy. When Strange New Worlds inevitably concludes, as all shows must, Pike's arc won't end in his chair. It won't end in the flicker of lights on Talos IV or the soft music of alien forgiveness. It will end in the stars. Not just because that's where he belongs, but because that's where his love lives, in every ship that takes flight because he held the line. His greatest love isn't a single person. It's the mission. It's the dream. It's the universe. And it's still out there, ever expanding, still waiting for him and for us to carry his legacy forward. Conclusion. Pike's end is only the beginning. Captain Pike's story may end in tragedy, but it also begins a tradition. His love, the kind that sacrifices everything for the sake of others, is the foundation upon which the Star Trek universe is built. He teaches us that sometimes love isn't about possession or even presence. Sometimes it's about belief. Belief in a better world. In unity. In peace. And in people. So when Strange New Worlds ends, and Pike's final chapter is written, remember, his greatest love hasn't faded. It's just out there, somewhere among the stars, still waiting. Would you like this adapted for a blog format, broken into shorter sections, or with visuals or quotes included? His greatest love isn't a single person. It's the mission. It's the dream. It's the universe. And it's still out there, ever expanding, still waiting for him, and for us to carry his legacy forward. Conclusion. Pike's end is only the beginning. Captain Pike's story may end in tragedy, but it also begins a tradition. His love, the kind that sacrifices everything for the